The parchment in Mitchell's hands trembled like a dying bird. 300 pairs of eyes watched her with the kind of hungry anticipation usually reserved for public executions or reality TV finales. She could practically hear their thoughts. Watch the defective Omega embarrass herself. Watch her croak through the sacred hymn like a frog with a head cold. Vivian Blackthorne's phone camera gleamed in the moonlight, ready to immortalize this humiliation on social media for eternity. Mitchell had survived 23 years of being Crescent Ridgepac's resident disappointment. She'd endured her father calling her defective, before abandoning her like last season's fashion. She'd weathered her mother's disappearance, the whispers, the looks of pity mixed with disgust. She'd become a ghost in her own life, so invisible that sometimes she wondered if she'd already died and just forgot to lie down. But standing here, about to desecrate the most sacred song in werewolf tradition, because a bully in designer shoes thought it would be funny? This was a new circle of hell, and Mitchell hadn't even known she was still descending. Screw it, she thought, with the clarity of someone who'd already lost everything. If I'm going to burn, I might as well make it memorable. She closed her eyes, shutting out the jeering faces, the phone cameras, the crushing weight of being the punchline to a joke she'd never asked to be part of. The ancient words of the lunar hymn swam on the parchment, written in the old tongue, words that supposedly called to the moon goddess herself, words that had been sung by powerful alphas and gifted omegas for 1,000 years. Never by someone broken. Never by someone like her. Mitchell opened her mouth, expecting the same thin, unremarkable voice that she used to mumble, "Yes, ma'am," and "sorry," and all the other words that made up her vocabulary of invisibility. What emerged instead made the earth stop spinning. The first note hit the air like lightning striking water. Pure, powerful, impossible. It wasn't just sound, it was power given audible form. Ancient magic made manifest through vocal cords that apparently had been sleeping for 23 years, waiting for this exact moment to wake up and wreck everyone's expectations. Mitchell's eyes flew open in shock, but her voice kept going, pulled forward by something deeper than conscious thought. The lunar hymn poured out of her like moonlight, each word resonating with a frequency that made the clearing's torches flicker and dance. The air itself seemed to thicken, to shimmer with silver light that had no earthly source. The crowd's jeering had cut off like someone had pressed a mute button on reality. 300 wolves stood frozen, their faces shifting from mockery to shock to something that looked uncomfortably close to awe. Vivian's phone had slipped from her manicured fingers and hit the dirt with a muffled thud, but she didn't notice. She was staring at Mitchell like Mitchell had just sprouted wings and started juggling fire. And Mitchell felt her wolf. That silent, broken shadow in her mind that had never been more than a flicker of maybe someday suddenly roared to life. Not with a shift, her bones stayed stubbornly human, her skin frustratingly furless. But with recognition. With power. With a presence so overwhelming that Mitchell almost stopped singing from the shock of it. "Hello," the wolf said, and her voice was moonlight and midnight and ancient magic wrapped in fur. "Did you really think I was broken? I was just waiting." Waiting for what? Mitchell thought, still singing, the hymn flowing through her on autopilot now. For you to be ready. For him to arrive. Him who? The trees at the clearing's edge parted like stage curtains, and Alpha King Klaus stepped through. Mitchell's voice faltered. Just a heartbeat's worth of disruption. A single note that wavered before she caught it again. But in that heartbeat, the entire world had reorganized itself around a new center of gravity, and that center was 6'4" of lethal grace in a tailored black suit that probably cost more than Mitchell's entire existence. Klaus was devastating in the way that natural disasters were devastating, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Impossible to look away from even as every survival instinct screamed to run. His dark hair was slightly too long, touching his collar in a way that suggested he had more important things to worry about than haircuts. His face was all sharp angles and aristocratic bones, the kind of face that belonged on ancient coins or modern magazine covers. But his eyes were what made Mitchell's wolf surge forward with recognition and hunger, and something that felt dangerously like coming home. They burned gold even in his human form, fixed on Mitchell with an intensity that should have been illegal. He'd stopped dead at the clearing's edge, his massive frame gone completely still in that predatory way that apex predators had right before they struck. The hymn was ending now, the final notes rising into the night air like prayers made of sound. Mitchell held the last note longer than the parchment indicated, unable to stop, unwilling to let this moment end because somehow she knew that when the music died, everything would change. The note faded into silence. The clearing held its collective breath. Klaus took 3 steps forward, moving with liquid grace, his eyes never leaving Mitchell's face. His wolf was visible just beneath his skin, power radiating off him in waves that made the weaker wolves take instinctive steps backward. When he spoke, his voice was gravel and honey, command and question wrapped together. Mate. The word hit the clearing like a bomb. Mitchell's knees decided that standing was overrated and started to buckle. But her newly awakened wolf surged forward, flooding her body with strength she'd never possessed. She stayed upright through sheer supernatural stubbornness, even as her mind tried to process what had just happened. Mate. The Alpha King had just called her his mate. Her. Mitchell Ashwood. The broken Omega who couldn't shift, the pack's resident charity case, the girl who was one false accusation away from exile. The universe had apparently developed a sense of humor, and it was dark. Klaus was moving toward her now, cutting through the crowd like a shark through water. Wolves scrambled to get out of his way, bowing their heads in automatic submission. His eyes had gone full gold, his wolf clearly in control, and Mitchell could feel him now. Feel the pull of the mate bond like a rope tied around her chest, drawing her forward even as her human brain screamed that this was impossible. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell him, pine and rain and something uniquely him that made her wolf purr like a contented cat. You, Klaus said, and his voice had dropped an octave, rough with wolf and wanton wonder. How is this possible? Mitchell's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her brain had apparently taken a vacation, leaving her vocal cords to fend for themselves. She managed. I'm Mitchell. I'm nobody. I'm mine, Klaus interrupted. And the word resonated with alpha command and mate claim and a possessiveness that should have been terrifying but instead made Mitchell's wolf practically roll over in submission. The clearing erupted. Wolves started talking all at once, their voices rising in a cacophony of shock and speculation and barely concealed outrage. How could the Alpha King be mated to her? To the shiftless Omega? To Crescent Ridge's resident failure? This is impossible. Vivian's voice cut through the noise like a knife through butter. She'd recovered her phone and was stalking toward Klaus with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her life. Your Majesty, there must be some mistake. Mitchell can't even shift. She's defective. Klaus turned to look at Vivian, and whatever she saw in his face made her take 3 rapid steps backward. Finish that sentence, he said softly, and I'll have your throat. Vivian went white. The crowd went silent again, because everyone had just remembered that Klaus wasn't just powerful, he was dangerous. His reputation for a hair-trigger temper wasn't pack gossip, it was documented fact, written in the blood of wolves who challenged him and lost. Klaus turned back to Mitchell, and his expression softened fractionally. We need to talk. Privately. It wasn't a request. Alpha Kings didn't make requests, they made royal commands disguised as polite suggestions. Mitchell nodded because what else could she do? Her wolf was practically doing backflips at the prospect of being alone with their mate, while her human side was having a mild panic attack about the fact that her entire life had just detonated like a grenade in a china shop. Klaus extended his hand, palm up, waiting. Mitchell stared at it for a long moment, at the strength in those fingers, the calluses that suggested he wasn't just a political figure but a warrior, the way his hand didn't shake even a fraction despite the tension radiating through his frame. She placed her hand in his. The mate bond flared to life like gasoline meeting flame, and Mitchell gasped as sensation flooded through her. His emotions, his wolf, the overwhelming rightness of skin touching skin. Klaus's fingers closed around hers, gentle despite the power she could feel thrumming beneath his control. Come, he said and started walking, pulling her with him. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, wolves bowing as they passed. Mitchell caught glimpses of faces, shock, envy, confusion, rage. She saw Vivian's expression of absolute fury, saw Beta Marcus looking like someone had just told him his retirement fund had evaporated, saw the other Omegas staring with something between awe and terror. Klaus led her into the forest, away from the clearing, away from the ceremony that was supposed to be about him but had somehow become about her. They walked in silence, his hand wrapped around hers like an anchor, her mind racing through possibilities and probabilities, and the overwhelming certainty that her life had just jumped the tracks into a completely different reality. After 5 minutes, Klaus stopped in a smaller clearing, lit by moonlight filtering through the canopy. He turned to face her, his hand still holding hers, his expression caught between wonder and frustration. "Explain," he said. "How are you my mate? Why did I feel the bond the moment you started singing? And why?" His voice dropped, confusion bleeding through the command. "Why does my wolf recognize you when we've never met?" Mitchell looked up at him, at this powerful alpha who could snap her in half without trying, who ruled 5 packs with an iron fist, who was supposed to mate with someone worthy and powerful and definitely not her. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm nobody. I'm the pack's resident failure. I can't shift. Stop saying that." Klaus's free hand came up to cup her jaw, tilting her face up to meet his burning gaze. "My mate is not a failure. My mate is not nobody. You don't understand," Mitchell said, and she could feel tears pricking at her eyes because this was too much, too fast, too impossible. "I've been broken my whole life. My wolf never manifested. I've been waiting 23 years for a shift that never came. And now suddenly she's here, but I still can't shift, and you're the Alpha King and this is insane." "Breathe," Klaus commanded, and Mitchell's lungs obeyed before her brain caught up. "Your wolf spoke to you for the first time tonight?" Mitchell nodded, not trusting her voice. Klaus's expression shifted, understanding dawning. The power in your voice. That wasn't just talent, that was magic. Old magic. The kind that died out centuries ago. "I don't understand." "Neither do I. But I intend to find out." His thumb traced her jawline, surprisingly gentle. "What I do know is that the mate bond doesn't lie. You're mine. I'm yours. Everything else," he gestured vaguely at the world beyond their clearing, "is just details to be sorted." "Details," Mitchell repeated, slightly hysterical. The Alpha King just claimed a shiftless Omega as his mate in front of 300 witnesses, and you're calling it details? Klaus's lips twitched. Not quite a smile but close. "When you put it that way, I suppose there will be some political complications." "Some," Mitchell echoed. "That's like calling the ocean some water." Now he did smile, and the expression transformed his face from devastating to absolutely lethal. "I like you. My wolf likes you. That's more than I can say for most people I meet. Your standards must be low. My standards are impossibly high. Which is why I'm 35 and unmated." He stepped closer, crowding into her space in a way that should have been intimidating but instead made her wolf purr with satisfaction. "Until tonight. Until you opened your mouth and sang like you were calling down the moon itself. Until I felt the mate bond snap into place so hard it nearly brought me to my knees." Mitchell swallowed hard. "What happens now?" Klaus's expression turned serious. "Now? Now I claim you properly, before some idiotic alpha decides that you're fair game because you can't shift. Now I take you home. Now." His voice dropped into something that was pure wolf, pure possession. "You become my Luna Queen, and anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with my claws." "I don't know how to be a Luna Queen," Mitchell whispered. "I don't even know how to be a proper Omega." "Good," Klaus said. "I don't need proper. I need you." His hand tightened on hers. "But I need you to understand something. Being my mate won't be easy. I have enemies. I have wolves who will see you as a weakness, a target. I have a temper that's legendary for a reason, and court politics that would make Machiavelli weep. If you want to walk away, if you want to reject this bond, I'll let you go. I won't force this." Mitchell stared at him, at this powerful alpha offering her a choice when he could have simply commanded her obedience. At the vulnerability hiding beneath the strength, the hope warring with expectation in his golden eyes. Her wolf had no doubts. "He's ours. We're his. This is destiny." Her human side was more cautious, but even it couldn't deny the pull of the mate bond, the rightness of Klaus's hand in hers, the feeling that she'd been wandering lost her whole life and had finally, impossibly, found home. "I don't want to walk away," she said quietly. "I want to know why my wolf chose tonight to wake up. I want to understand why the moon goddess would mate me to you. I want." She took a breath, gathering courage. I want to see what happens when the broken Omega and the Alpha King write their own story. Klaus's smile was fierce and proud. Then let's give the gossips something to talk about. He pulled her closer, his other hand sliding into her hair, tilting her face up. I'm going to kiss you now. And then I'm going to mark you, so every wolf in this territory knows exactly who you belong to. Possessive much? Mitchell managed, but her heart was racing, her wolf howling with anticipation. You have no idea, Klaus murmured, and then his lips were on hers. The mate bond exploded. Mitchell gasped against his mouth as sensation flooded through her. His desire, his wolf satisfaction, the overwhelming rightness of this connection. Klaus kissed like he did everything else, with complete control and absolute intensity, claiming her mouth like he was claiming her soul. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard, and Mitchell's legs had definitely forgotten how to function properly. Klaus's eyes were pure gold now, his wolf very close to the surface. He tilted his head, exposing the side of her neck, his intention clear. This will hurt, he warned. But after, every wolf will know you're mine. Do it, Mitchell said, and her wolf surged forward in agreement. Klaus's canines extended, longer and sharper than normal human teeth, and then he struck. The pain was sharp and bright and surprisingly brief, eclipsed almost immediately by a wave of pleasure so intense that Mitchell's knees actually did buckle this time. Klaus caught her, holding her against his chest as his mark settled into her skin. A claiming that went soul deep, that broadcast to every supernatural creature within 100 miles that she belonged to the Alpha King. When he pulled back, his lips were stained with her blood, his expression fierce with satisfaction. Mine, he said again, and this time it wasn't a question or a claim, it was a promise. Yours, Mitchell agreed, because what else could she say? The broken Omega had just been claimed by a king. And somewhere in the forest, the moon goddess was definitely laughing. Chapter 2. When Omegas meet crowns. The walk back to the ceremony clearing felt like a death march. If death marches came with supernatural marking burns and the uncomfortable awareness that 300 wolves were about to witness the year's best scandal. Mitchell's neck throbbed where Klaus had bitten her. A constant, pulsing reminder that her life had gone from invisible dishwasher to Alpha King's mate in approximately 15 minutes. Her wolf was practically prancing with satisfaction, radiating smug contentment like a cat who'd caught both the canary and the deed to the aviary. Klaus hadn't let go of her hand. His grip was firm, possessive, broadcasting ownership in a way that should have annoyed her feminist sensibilities but instead made her wolf purr like a diesel engine. You're thinking very loudly, Klaus observed, his voice amused despite the tension radiating through his frame. I'm thinking about how 300 wolves are about to watch the Alpha King parade his shiftless Omega mate around like a prize pig at a county fair, Mitchell said. How am I supposed to not think loudly about that? Klaus stopped walking, turned to face her. His expression was serious, all traces of amusement gone. Listen to me very carefully, he said. You are not a prize pig. You are not shiftless. Your wolf is very much present, I can feel her. And you are not my anything except my mate, my equal, my partner. His hand came up to trace the mark on her neck, sending shivers down her spine. When we walk into that clearing, you walk as my Luna Queen, not as my possession. Understood? Mitchell stared at him, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Respect? Hope? Indigestion from the stress? I don't know how to be a Luna Queen, she admitted. I barely know how to be a functional person. I've spent 23 years being treated like defective merchandise. You can't just slap a crown on my head and expect me to suddenly know how to rule. Good thing I'm not slapping anything, Klaus said. You'll learn. I'll teach you. And anyone who treats you with anything less than absolute respect will answer to me. His smile went sharp. And my definition of answering to me typically involves excessive bleeding. That's slightly terrifying and oddly comforting at the same time. That's me in a nutshell. Klaus resumed walking, pulling her with him. Fair warning. The next hour is going to be chaos. Beta Marcus will be having an aneurysm over the political implications. Vivian will be plotting my death and yours. The pack elders will be demanding explanations I don't have. And everyone will be staring. So just like every other day of my life, except with more people and higher stakes. Klaus's laugh was surprised and genuine. How are you making jokes right now? Trauma response, Mitchell said cheerfully. I either joke or cry, and crying gives me a headache. They emerged from the tree line, and 300 pairs of eyes swiveled to them like synchronized security cameras. The clearing had descended into barely controlled chaos. Wolves clustered in groups, voices raised in heated debate, the careful hierarchy of pack structure fracturing under the weight of unprecedented scandal. Beta Marcus stood at the clearing's center, looking like a man who just watched his retirement plan spontaneously combust. He was tall and broad, with the kind of face that suggested he'd forgotten how to smile sometime in the 1990s. His eyes went immediately to the mark on Mitchell's neck, and his expression shifted from stressed to catastrophically stressed. Your Majesty, he said, his voice tight with barely suppressed panic. Perhaps we could discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Klaus interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. Mitchell is my mate. She'll be acknowledged as Luna Queen of the 5 territories. Any questions? The clearing erupted into noise again. Protests, exclamations, a few gasps that sounded genuinely shocked despite everyone having witnessed the initial claiming. Mitchell felt every eye on her, felt the weight of their judgment, their disbelief, their barely concealed contempt. Defective, broken, worthless. The old words tried to rise up, tried to drown her in their familiar poison. But her wolf snarled them back down. We are not broken. We are claimed. We are powerful. And anyone who says otherwise can choke on their own teeth. Mitchell straightened her spine, lifted her chin. If she was going to be stared at like a zoo exhibit, she might as well give them a good show. I understand there will be concerns, Klaus continued, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade through silk. Political concerns. Social concerns. The fact that my mate can't yet shift. Yet, Mitchell's wolf supplied smugly, is irrelevant. The mate bond doesn't lie. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. And my patience for anyone who questions her judgment is exactly zero. Vivian pushed forward through the crowd, her perfectly made-up face twisted with barely concealed fury. Your Majesty, surely you can't be serious. Mitchell is my mate, Klaus said, and power rippled through the clearing, making the weaker wolves drop to their knees. Complete that sentence with anything except respect, and you'll find out exactly why I have a reputation for excessive violence. Vivian's mouth snapped shut, but her eyes burned with promises of future revenge. Mitchell filed that away under problems to deal with later, preferably with a baseball bat. An elderly woman stepped forward, Elder Vera, if Mitchell remembered correctly, one of the pack's most respected historians. Her face was weathered and wise, her eyes sharp despite her age. Alpha King, she said, her voice carrying despite its softness. May I approach? Klaus nodded, tension rippling through him. Elder Vera moved closer, her eyes fixed on Mitchell with an intensity that made Mitchell want to hide behind Klaus like a child behind a parent's legs. The old woman stopped 3 feet away, studying Mitchell's face with the kind of scrutiny usually reserved for suspicious moles or potentially cursed artifacts. Sing something, Elder Vera said abruptly. Mitchell blinked. I'm sorry, what? Sing. Anything. Doesn't have to be the lunar hymn, just sing. Mitchell looked at Klaus, who shrugged slightly. Your call, his expression said. She took a breath and started singing the first thing that came to mind. A nursery rhyme her mother used to hum before she decided that parenting was too much work. The melody was simple, childish, nothing like the lunar hymn's ancient power. But her voice was still there. Still impossible. Still threaded with that supernatural resonance that made the air shimmer. Elder Vera's eyes went wide. Moon's mercy, she breathed. I thought the siren bloodline died out 300 years ago. The clearing went deathly silent. Siren bloodline? Klaus's voice was sharp. Explain. Now. Elder Vera dragged her gaze from Mitchell to Klaus. There were wolves once who could sing magic into existence. Could command with their voices, could heal or harm with specific melodies. They were called sirens and they were revered. But they were also hunted. Their voices were too powerful, too dangerous. By the 17th century, they'd been wiped out. Apparently not, Klaus said dryly. Apparently not, Elder Vera agreed, turning back to Mitchell. Your wolf never manifested because it was protecting you. Siren wolves don't shift until after they've found their mate. It's a failsafe, to prevent them from being identified and hunted before they have protection. Mitchell's brain was making Windows error sounds. I'm sorry, are you telling me I'm some kind of magical unicorn wolf that hasn't shifted because my DNA was playing the long game? Essentially, yes. That's insane. And yet, Elder Vera gestured at her. Here you are, singing like you're calling down the heavens, mated to the Alpha King, with a wolf that's been dormant for 23 years suddenly wide awake. Mitchell turned to Klaus. Did you know? About the siren thing. I had suspicions, Klaus admitted. The power in your voice wasn't natural. Not in the normal sense. And my wolf recognized you immediately, which doesn't happen without supernatural cause. He studied her face. Does this change anything for you? Does it change that I'm terrified and overwhelmed and pretty sure I'm going to vomit from stress? Mitchell asked. No. Does it explain why the universe decided to mate me to you? Maybe. She laughed, slightly hysterical. At least now I know I'm not defective. Just cosmically special in a way that apparently makes me a target for murder. No one's murdering anyone, Klaus said firmly. Especially not you. The last sirens were killed specifically because they were too powerful, Elder Vera said quietly. If word gets out about what Mitchell is, there will be wolves who see her as a threat. Or worse, as a tool to be controlled. Then word doesn't get out, Klaus said. His voice had gone cold, dangerous. Mitchell's nature stays within this pack. Anyone who speaks of it outside Crescent Ridge answers to me personally. And we all know how much I enjoy personal conversations involving arterial spray. Several wolves looked nauseous. Mitchell couldn't blame them. Her mate had a reputation for creative violence that made horror movies look tame. Beta Marcus cleared his throat. Your Majesty, with respect, keeping this secret may be impossible. The power in Mitchell's voice was felt by 300 wolves. They'll talk. Then they'll learn to shut up. Klaus's eyes swept the crowd, promising creative dismemberment to anyone who challenged him. Mitchell is Luna Queen. She's under my protection. And anyone who puts her at risk will discover exactly why I'm called the Blood King in territories that don't like me very much. Mitchell hadn't heard that nickname before. It did not inspire confidence in his conflict resolution skills. We should return to the capital, Klaus continued. Tonight. Mitchell needs to be in secure territory, and I need to consult with my archives about siren bloodlines. Tonight. Mitchell squeaked. As in right now tonight? As in I don't get to pack a bag or say goodbye or have a minor breakdown in private. Klaus's expression softened fractionally. You can have 10 minutes to gather your things. And the breakdown can happen in my car. It's soundproofed. How romantic. I'm not known for my romantic gestures. I'm known for my efficiency and my body count. You're really selling this whole mate thing. His smile was sharp. You chose not to walk away, remember? You're stuck with me now. Lucky me, Mitchell muttered. But her wolf was doing victory laps, completely unconcerned about body counts or political implications, or the fact that Mitchell's entire life had just been packed up and shipped to a different zip code. Klaus turned to Beta Marcus. I trust you can handle the ceremony's conclusion? Make appropriate excuses for my departure. Beta Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, saw the expression on Klaus's face, and wisely chose life. Of course, Your Majesty. Good. Klaus's hand tightened on Mitchell's. 10 minutes. Pack light. We're leaving. They headed toward the pack house, trailed by a small contingent of Klaus's guards who'd materialized from somewhere. Large, intimidating wolves who looked like they bench-pressed cars for fun. Mitchell's mind was spinning, trying to process everything that had happened in the last hour. Siren bloodline. Luna Queen. Capital territory. Life-threatening political implications. This was fine. Everything was fine. She was absolutely not having a panic attack. Breathe, Klaus murmured, squeezing her hand. I can feel your anxiety through the bond. It's making my wolf want to murder everyone within a 50-foot radius. Sorry I'm not handling my supernatural revelation and forced relocation with more grace, Mitchell said. Next time I'll try to be more zen about it. There won't be a next time. You only get one mate revelation. He paused. Though knowing our luck, There will probably be several more revelations in the near future. My life tends toward the dramatic. Great. I've always wanted more drama. My current level of drama was getting boring. They reached Mitchell's tiny room in the pack house, barely more than a closet with a bed, her few possessions fitting into a single duffel bag. Klaus stood in the doorway, his broad frame making the small space feel even more cramped, watching as she threw clothes into the bag with no regard for folding or organization. "This is it?" he asked quietly. "This is where they housed you? Shiftless Omegas don't get the penthouse suite." Klaus's expression went cold with fury. "Make a list. Everyone who treated you as less than you are. Every person who made you feel worthless. Every wolf who looked at you with contempt. Why? Because I'm going to have words with them. Possibly words that involve my claws and their intestines, depending on how creative they were with their cruelty." Mitchell turned to look at him. At this powerful alpha who was ready to commit murder on her behalf, who looked at her tiny room with barely suppressed rage, who'd claimed her despite every logical reason not to. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care? You've known me for less than an hour." Klaus crossed the room in 2 strides, cupping her face in his hands with surprising gentleness. "Because you're mine. Because the mate bond doesn't just make me possessive. It makes me homicidal toward anyone who's hurt you. Because when I look at you, I don't see a shiftless Omega. I see power. Potential. My equal." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "And because my wolf is currently composing a mental list of creative ways to punish everyone who's ever made you doubt your worth. Your wolf is disturbingly violent. Comes with the territory of being Alpha King. It's literally in the job description." Mitchell laughed despite everything and Klaus smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine, transforming his face from terrifying to merely devastating. "Come on," he said. "Let's go home." Home. The word should have felt foreign, wrong. Mitchell had never really had a home, just places she'd been tolerated until she wore out her welcome. But with Klaus's hand in hers and her wolf humming with contentment, the word almost felt like it might be true. They walked out of the pack house, out of Crescent Ridge, into whatever chaos awaited them. And Mitchell couldn't help thinking that maybe, just maybe, being broken had been preparation for becoming something else entirely. Something powerful. Something feared. Something that sang like bringing down the moon. Chapter 3. Territory of Thorns and Crowns. Klaus's car was exactly what Mitchell expected from someone called the Blood King. A massive black SUV that looked like it could survive a nuclear apocalypse and still have enough horsepower left over to outrun the fallout. The interior smelled like leather and pine and Klaus, which her wolf found intoxicating and her human side found distracting. The guards had loaded her pathetic duffel bag into the trunk with the kind of care usually reserved for nuclear materials, which was sweet but also depressing. "Your whole life fits in one bag? Congratulations, you've achieved minimalist living at a level that would make Marie Kondo weep." Klaus slid into the driver's seat with predatory grace, and Mitchell buckled herself into the passenger seat, trying not to think about how this was her life now. Running away into the night with an alpha she'd known for less than 2 hours, heading toward a capital city she'd never seen, to become a queen of territories she'd only heard about in rumors. Normal Tuesday night activities. Nothing weird about this at all. "You're spiraling," Klaus observed, starting the engine. It purred to life like a satisfied predator. "I'm processing. You're catastrophizing. I can feel it through the bond. Your anxiety tastes like burnt coffee and panic attacks." "My anxiety has a flavor? That's deeply unsettling." Klaus pulled out of Crescent Ridge's territory, the pack house disappearing in the rearview mirror. Good riddance to that hellhole. If Mitchell never saw another industrial dishwasher again, it would be too soon. "The mate bond is intense," Klaus said carefully, like he was explaining advanced calculus to a toddler. "I can feel your emotions. You can feel mine, though it'll be weaker until you shift for the first time. We'll be able to communicate telepathically eventually. And if either of us is in danger, the other will know immediately." That sounds like a spectacular invasion of privacy. It's designed to keep mates alive. Privacy is secondary to survival in supernatural biology. Mitchell watched the dark forest blur past the window. "Tell me about the capital. What am I walking into?" Klaus was quiet for a moment, his hand steady on the wheel. "The capital, Silverstone City, is complicated. It's where I rule from, where all 5-pack territories meet and mingle. It's beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. Old magic runs through the streets. Politics are cutthroat. And every alpha, beta, and ambitious wolf with delusions of grandeur converges there to play power games that would make Machiavelli look like a kindergarten teacher. You're really selling this. I'm being honest. You deserve honesty. He glanced at her, golden eyes reflecting the dashboard lights. My court will hate you. Not because of who you are, but because you represent change. Disruption. Most of them have been trying to marry their daughters to me for years. The fact that I've mated with an Omega from a minor pack, an Omega who can't shift. He paused. An Omega who's actually a lost siren bloodline with powers they can't quantify or control. They'll see you as either a weakness to exploit or a threat to eliminate. Stop, you're going to make me feel too welcome. Klaus's lips twitched. I'm trying to prepare you. Court isn't like pack life. Everyone wears a smile and a knife in equal measure. Trust is currency and everyone's bankrupt. Do you trust anyone? I trust my wolf. I trust my beta Ezra. You'll meet him tomorrow. He's insufferable but loyal. And, he reached over taking her hand. I trust you. Mitchell blinked. You literally just met me. The mate bond doesn't lie. My wolf trusts you implicitly. That's good enough for me. They drove in silence for a while, the road unwinding beneath them like a dark ribbon. Mitchell tried not to think about court politics or power games or the fact that she was about to become queen of territories she'd never seen. Tried not to think about Vivian's furious expression or Elder Vera's revelations about siren bloodlines. Tried not to think about how, for the first time in 23 years, she didn't feel invisible. Tell me about your family, Klaus said quietly. Mitchell's hand tensed in his. Not much to tell. My father called me defective and left on a hunting trip 15 years ago. Never came back. My mother lasted another 6 months before she decided parenting a broken Omega was too much work. No siblings. No relatives who claimed me. She forced a laugh. I'm a walking country song without the pickup truck. Klaus's grip tightened on her hand. They were fools. They were realistic. I couldn't shift. In wolf society, that made me worthless. In their society. Not in mine. His voice had gone cold. Anyone who measures worth by shifting ability is an idiot. Some of the most powerful wolves I know barely shift. They don't need to. Because their human forms are deadly enough. Were your parents good to you? Klaus's expression shuddered. My parents were complicated. My father was Alpha King before me, powerful, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless. He believed strength was the only currency that mattered. My mother was his second mate. His first died in childbirth with my older brother, who also died. She was kind but weak, and my father never let her forget it. That sounds toxic. It was. My father ruled through fear. He believed love made you vulnerable, that caring for anyone was a weakness enemies could exploit. Klaus's voice had gone distant. He tried to beat that softness out of me. Tried to turn me into a perfect weapon. No emotions, no attachments, just pure controlled violence. Did it work? Partially. I'm exceptionally good at violence. His smile was sharp and bitter. But I never lost the part of me that believes there's more to strength than cruelty. My father saw that as failure. I see it as the only thing that makes me different from the monsters I fight. Mitchell studied his profile, the sharp angles of his face, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands gripped the wheel like he was holding on to control by force of will alone. You're not a monster, she said quietly. You don't know that. You've known me 2 hours. My wolf knows. She trusts you. And honestly, I trust her judgment more than I trust my own at this point. Klaus glanced at her, something vulnerable flickering in his expression before he locked it down. Your wolf has good instincts. She also thinks eating an entire cheesecake is a reasonable dinner choice, so her judgment is questionable. Klaus laughed, genuine and surprised, and the sound made something warm bloom in Mitchell's chest. They drove through the night, the landscape gradually shifting from dense forest to rolling hills to the outskirts of civilization. Streetlights began appearing, scattered at first, then more frequent. Buildings rose from the darkness like geometric mountains. And then, cresting a final hill, Silverstone City spread before them. It was beautiful. The city glowed against the night sky like a constellation that had fallen to earth. Buildings of glass and steel mixed with older architecture, stone structures that had stood for centuries, their foundations built on old pack magic. The city was arranged in a rough circle, with 5 distinct districts radiating from a central core like a star. The 5 territories, Klaus explained, slowing the car. Each district represents one of the 5 packs under my rule. The center, that tall building that looks like a modernist nightmare? That's the Capitol building. My home. Your home now. The building in question was a massive structure of black glass and steel, rising 50 stories into the night sky. It looked like someone had asked an architect to design a building that screamed powerful and vaguely threatening, and the architect had said, "Say no more." Mitchell searched for words. Excessive? Intimidating? Compensating for something? I was going to say impressive, but sure, those work too. Klaus smiled. My father built it. He believed architecture should make a statement. Specifically, the statement, I can crush you without trying. Subtle. They drove through the city streets, past buildings that mixed modern and ancient, past wolves walking in human form who stopped to stare at the Alpha King's car. Mitchell felt their eyes on the vehicle, curiosity and calculation in equal measure. The Capitol building loomed larger as they approached, its dark glass reflecting the city lights like obsidian catching fire. Security gates opened automatically, recognizing Klaus's vehicle, and they descended into an underground parking garage that looked like it could house a small army. Klaus parked and turned to her. Last chance to run, screaming. No one would blame you. Where would I go? Back to washing dishes at a pack that treated me like expired dairy? No thanks. Mitchell took a breath. Besides, my wolf would never forgive me if I walked away from you now. She's already mentally redecorated our den and picked out names for future pups. Klaus's eyes widened fractionally. She's... what? I'm kidding. Mostly. Mitchell grinned at his expression. Relax. I'm not expecting a white wedding and 2.5 kids immediately. Though my wolf is making some suggestions that I'm choosing to ignore. Your wolf is ambitious. Your wolf literally claimed me in front of 300 witnesses after hearing me sing one song. We're both dealing with overly enthusiastic inner animals. Klaus laughed and got out of the car, moving around to open Mitchell's door before she could do it herself. The gesture was old-fashioned and weirdly sweet, and Mitchell's wolf preened at the attention. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, tension building with each passing floor. Klaus's penthouse, because of course he had a penthouse, occupied the entire 50th floor. The elevator doors opened directly into a massive living space that looked like it had been designed by someone with excellent taste and unlimited funds. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city. Modern furniture and dark colors created a space that was elegant and masculine. Art that looked expensive but not pretentious hung on the walls. Everything screamed wealth and power and someone who'd actually bothered to make their space livable. This is your home? Mitchell asked, stepping into the space. Our home now. Klaus set her duffel bag down. I'll give you the full tour tomorrow. For now, he gestured to a hallway. Bedrooms are that way. Master suite is at the end. Guest rooms if you want space. Bathrooms are stocked. Kitchen is over there. Though I should warn you, my cooking skills stop at can operate a coffee maker without causing fires. Mitchell turned to look at him. Where are you sleeping? Klaus's expression was carefully neutral. Wherever you're comfortable with. The mate bond pulls us together, but I'm not going to force proximity if you're not ready. Mitchell considered. Her wolf was howling to be near their mate, to curl up against him and never leave. Her human side was more cautious, aware that they'd known each other for approximately 3 hours, and that was maybe not enough time to make sleep-sharing decisions. But she was also exhausted, overwhelmed, and the thought of sleeping alone in a strange place made her anxiety spike. I'm not ready for everything, she said carefully, but I don't want to sleep alone. Could we compromise? Klaus's expression softened. I can do compromise. What do you need? Shared space. Separate sides of the bed. Clothes stay on. No expectations. Done. He held out his hand. Come on. Let's get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be chaos, and you'll need energy to deal with my beta's personality. Mitchell took his hand. letting him lead her down the hallway to the master suite. The room was massive, king-sized bed that looked like it could sleep four, more windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than Mitchell's entire pack house. Klaus grabbed clothes from his dresser, soft pants and a t-shirt that would drown her. Bathrooms through there. Take your time. Mitchell changed quickly. The bathroom itself a marvel of marble and chrome that would have made interior designers weep with joy. Klaus's shirt hung on her like a dress, smelling like him, making her wolf practically purr with contentment. When she emerged, Klaus had changed into sleep pants and nothing else, and Mitchell's brain short-circuited slightly because apparently the Alpha King had a physique that would make Greek sculptors jealous. He noticed her staring and smirked. "See something you like?" "Shut up," Mitchell muttered, climbing into the bed. It was obscenely comfortable, like sleeping on a cloud made of money. Klaus slid in on the other side, maintaining careful distance. "Comfortable? This bed costs more than I've earned in my entire life." "Probably. My father believed in excess." They lay in the darkness, the city glowing beyond the windows. Mitchell could feel Klaus through the mate bond. His steady presence, his wolf's contentment at having their mate close, the careful control he was maintaining to give her space. "Thank you," Mitchell said quietly. "For what?" "For not pushing. For giving me choices. For not treating me like property." Klaus was silent for a moment. "My father treated my mother like property. Like a beautiful object to display and control. I watched her fade, watched the light go out of her eyes, until she was just a shell going through motions." His voice had gone rough. "I swore I'd never do that. My mate would be my equal, my partner. Never my possession." Mitchell rolled to face him in the darkness. "You're a better man than your father." "I'm trying to be. Some days I'm not sure I'm succeeding." "You claimed a shiftless Omega in front of your entire political base. You threaten violence against anyone who disrespects her. You gave her choices when you could have demanded obedience." Mitchell reached across the space between them, finding his hand. "That's not your father. That's you." Klaus's fingers tangled with hers. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow you meet the court, and they're going to be circling like sharks who smell blood in the water." "Comforting. I'm being realistic. But I'll be with you. Anyone who tries to hurt you will learn why I'm called the Blood King." Mitchell smiled in the darkness. "My mate, the walking PR nightmare. Your mate, the homicidal alpha with boundary issues and a concerning collection of sharp objects. Still an improvement over my last living situation." Klaus laughed softly, and they lay in the darkness, hands linked across the bed. Two strangers bound by fate and magic and a connection neither fully understood. Tomorrow would bring chaos. But tonight, Mitchell fell asleep to the sound of Klaus's breathing and her wolf's contented purring. And for the first time in 23 years, she didn't feel broken. She felt like she might be exactly where she was supposed to be. Chapter 4. Court of Knives and Smiles. Mitchell woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting realization that she was in a bed that probably cost more than a luxury car. In a penthouse that overlooked a city she'd never seen. Next to an Alpha King who was still asleep and looked significantly less terrifying when unconscious. Klaus slept like he did everything else with complete commitment. He'd migrated across the bed during the night, crossing the careful boundary they'd established, one arm thrown across her waist in a possessive hold that would have annoyed her if her wolf wasn't radiating absolute contentment. "Mine," her wolf purred. "Ours. Warm. Safe." "He's drooling on the pillow," Mitchell's human side observed. "Perfect," her wolf insisted. Mitchell carefully extracted herself from Klaus's grip, which proved challenging because apparently the Alpha King was also an octopus in his sleep. She managed to escape without waking him and padded to the windows, taking in Silverstone City in daylight. It was even more impressive than it had been at night. The 5 districts were clearly visible now, each with its own architectural style, its own personality. The Northern District looked modern and industrial, all steel and glass. The Eastern District was greener, with parks visible between buildings. The Western District had older architecture, stone buildings that spoke of centuries of history. The Southern District was a mix of commercial and residential, bustling even from 50 stories up. And the Central District, where the Capitol building stood, was a blend of all 4. The heart where everything converged. "It's overwhelming at first," Mitchell turned to find Klaus awake, propped up on one elbow, watching her with an expression that was softer than she'd seen on him yet. How long have you been awake? Long enough to watch you try to escape my grip without waking me. You're surprisingly stealthy for someone who's never had stealth training. Years of avoiding bullies. You learned to move quietly. Klaus's expression hardened. Make that list. I'm serious. You can't murder everyone who was ever mean to me. You depopulate half the territory. Watch me. Mitchell laughed despite herself. What's the plan for today? Besides you terrifying your court with your new shiftless Omega mate. First, breakfast. My beta will join us, I messaged him last night. Then we'll meet with the court advisors and handle the political fallout. Klaus stood, stretching, and Mitchell's wolf appreciated the view entirely too much. After that, we'll visit the archives to research Siren bloodlines. And somewhere in there you'll need to shift for the first time. Mitchell's stomach dropped. Shift? But I don't know how. Your wolf is ready. I can feel her. Klaus crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. You couldn't shift before because she was protecting you. But you're claimed now. Protected. She has no reason to stay dormant. What if I can't? What if? Then we'll figure it out. Together. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I don't think you'll fail. I think you're more powerful than you realize. And the only thing holding you back is 23 years of people telling you that you're broken. Mitchell's throat tightened. You have a lot of faith in someone you barely know. My wolf knows you. That's enough. They ate breakfast on the balcony, food that Klaus ordered from somewhere, delivered by staff who appeared and disappeared like well-trained ghosts. Mitchell tried not to think about how this was her life now. Penthouse breakfasts, city views, an alpha king who looked at her like she was something precious instead of defective. The elevator chimed, and a man stepped out who could only be Ezra. He was tall and lean, with dark skin and sharp features that suggested he smiled frequently and meant it rarely. His eyes were intelligent and calculating, taking in Mitchell with an assessment that felt like being x-rayed for weaknesses. He wore a tailored suit that screamed, "I have money and taste," and moved with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly how dangerous you were. So, Ezra said, his voice smooth and amused, this is the Omega who broke the internet last night. The video of your claiming has 17 million views, by the way. Social media is having a collective meltdown. There's video? Mitchell asked weakly. Multiple angles. High definition. Someone even made a gif of Klaus's face when he said, mate. It's very dramatic. You're a meme now. Congratulations. Klaus growled. Find out who posted the videos. I want names. Already done. It was literally everyone with a phone. You claimed your mate in front of 300 witnesses. Did you expect discretion? Ezra turned his attention back to Mitchell, extending a hand. Ezra Cross. Beta to this walking disaster, best friend to someone with terrible impulse control, and apparently now your political advisor because someone has to keep you from getting assassinated. Mitchell shook his hand. Mitchell Ashwood. Recent dishwasher, current Omega in crisis, future. Luna Queen. Still processing that part. Ezra's smile was sharp and genuine. I like you. You have a sense of humor about the insanity. That'll help. He dropped into a chair, stealing a piece of toast from Klaus's plate with the ease of long friendship. So let's talk about the dumpster fire we're currently standing in. Poetic, Klaus observed dryly. Accurate, Ezra countered. He pulled out a tablet, swiping through screens. The court is losing their minds. The Northern Alpha is demanding a formal inquiry into whether the mate bond is legitimate. He's been trying to marry his daughter to Klaus for 5 years. The Eastern Pack is cautiously supportive, but wants guarantees about bloodline purity. The Western Elder Council is calling for a traditional Luna ceremony to legitimize the claim. And the Southern Pack, he paused, is circulating a petition to have the mating declared invalid on grounds of Omega incompetence. Omega incompetence? Mitchell repeated. That's not even a real thing. It is now. They invented it specifically for you. Be honored. They don't usually put this much effort into their discrimination. Ezra's tone was light, but his eyes were serious. The truth is, you're threatening every political alliance Klaus has spent years building. The fact that you're an omega, that you can't shift, that you're from a minor pack. Every ambitious alpha sees this as Klaus showing weakness. And weakness invites challenges. So what do we do? Mitchell asked. We demonstrate strength, Klaus said. We show them that Mitchell isn't weakness. She's power they can't comprehend. We make them fear what she represents more than they resent what she isn't. Ezra nodded. Which means you need to shift. Today. Before the court meeting tonight. Nothing silences critics like proving them wrong with supernatural flair. Mitchell's anxiety spiked. No pressure or anything. Actually, all the pressure, Ezra said cheerfully. But Klaus is right, your wolf is ready. I can feel her power from here. And I'm not even your mate. She's just waiting for permission. The court meeting was scheduled for 8 p.m., which gave Mitchell approximately 10 hours to figure out how to shift for the first time without making a fool of herself in front of wolves who already thought she was worthless. No big deal. Just casual shape-shifting. Like learning to ride a bike, except the bike was your own skeleton rearranging itself, and if you failed, everyone would use it as evidence that you should be exiled or worse. Klaus spent the morning walking her through the process, or trying to. Shifting was apparently one of those things that was more instinct than instruction, like explaining how to breathe or how to know when you're hungry. Feel your wolf, he said for the 15th time. They were in a private training room in the basement of the Capitol building. Padded floors, high ceilings, privacy wards that would keep anyone from sensing what happened inside. I can feel her, Mitchell said, frustration bleeding into her voice. She's right there. But every time I try to reach for her to pull her forward, she made a vague gesture. Stays where she is. Klaus circled her, assessing. You're afraid. Of course I'm afraid. I've spent 23 years not shifting. What if I do it wrong? What if I hurt myself? What if you're exactly as powerful as Elder Vera suggested, and that terrifies you more than failure? Klaus stopped in front of her, tilting her chin up. You've spent your whole life being invisible, being worthless. Shifting means being seen, being powerful, being everything you've been told you're not. That's scarier than staying broken. Mitchell stared at him, the truth of his words hitting like a physical blow. She was afraid. Not of failing, she'd failed plenty of times. She was afraid of succeeding. Afraid of being powerful. Because power meant expectations, meant responsibility, meant she couldn't hide behind defective Omega anymore. What if I'm not ready? She whispered. Then you're not ready. But hiding from your wolf won't change that. She's part of you, has always been part of you. Denying her is denying yourself. Mitchell closed her eyes, reaching inward. Her wolf was right there, massive and ancient, and so much more than Mitchell had ever imagined. Not a broken shadow, but a creature of moonlight and magic, power coiled tight in waiting. Why didn't you come before? Mitchell asked her. Because you weren't safe, her wolf answered, her voice like wind through trees. Because revealing what we are would have made you a target without protection. But now we have our mate. Now we have power. Now we can be everything we were meant to be. I'm scared. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. But fear doesn't mean you stop. It means you're brave enough to try anyway. Mitchell took a breath. Reached for her wolf. Not pulling, not forcing, just accepting. Opening herself to the shift, to the change, to becoming. The transformation hit like lightning. Pain ripped through her body. Bones breaking and reforming. Skin splitting to accommodate fur. Human consciousness merging with wolf instinct in a collision that felt like dying and being reborn simultaneously. Mitchell screamed. The sound morphing into a howl that shook the training room's walls. And then she was on four legs, the world suddenly sharper and clearer and more. She could smell Klaus, pine and rain and mate and home. Could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. Could feel the training room's wards humming with magic. Could sense every living thing in the building through some new sixth sense she hadn't known existed. She looked down at her paws, silver fur, lighter than most wolves, almost luminescent in the training room's lights. She was big for an Omega, she realized. Almost as large as a beta wolf. Klaus had shifted too. His massive black wolf standing before her. He was enormous, easily twice her size, all controlled power and predatory grace. His eyes were still gold, burning with pride and satisfaction and something that felt like love. You did it. His voice resonated through the mate bond, now accessible in wolf form. You shifted. And you're magnificent. Mitchell's wolf preened under the praise, then did something completely undignified. She pounced on Klaus like an overgrown puppy, tackling him in a display of enthusiasm that would have embarrassed her human side if her human side had any control right now. Klaus's wolf play fought back, gentle despite his size, letting Mitchell's wolf learn her new body through movement. They wrestled and chased and acted like wolves instead of rulers, and Mitchell felt joy bloom in her chest, pure, uncomplicated happiness that she'd never experienced before. Eventually they shifted back, both breathing hard, Mitchell's clothes shredded from the transformation. That was, Mitchell started. Incredible, Klaus finished. You're a natural. Most wolves take hours to shift their first time. You did it in minutes. My clothes exploded. Common problem. We'll get you a wardrobe of sacrificial clothing. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. You shifted. You're not broken. You never were. Mitchell let herself lean into him, let herself believe just for a moment that maybe he was right. The court meeting loomed that evening like an execution. Ezra had spent the afternoon briefing Mitchell on protocol, politics, and the 1,000 ways court wolves would try to undermine her. She'd been dressed in clothing that Ezra insisted was appropriate for a Luna queen. A dark green dress that was elegant without being pretentious, simple jewelry that suggested power without screaming it. Remember, Ezra said, adjusting her collar. They're going to test you, challenge you, try to make you react emotionally. Don't give them the satisfaction. Stay calm, stay queenly, and if anyone gets too aggressive, I'll remove their spine through their throat, Klaus finished pleasantly. I was going to say deflect with political grace, but sure, spinal removal works too. The court chamber was exactly as intimidating as Mitchell expected. A massive circular room with tiered seating. Wolves from all 5 territories gathered to witness the new Luna Queen. Hundreds of eyes tracked her as she entered with Klaus, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile to calculating. The 5 territorial alphas sat in places of honor, powerful wolves who ruled under Klaus's authority, but had significant independence. They were watching her like scientists studying a possibly dangerous specimen. Klaus led her to the center of the chamber, his hand on the small of her back, broadcasting ownership and protection in equal measure. I present Mitchell Ashwood, Klaus's voice carried through the chamber, amplified by the room's acoustics. My mate. Your Luna Queen. Anyone who wishes to challenge her claim may do so now. The silence was deafening. Then the Northern Alpha stood. A massive wolf with gray-streaked hair and eyes like ice. Alpha King. While we respect the mate bond, surely you can see the complications. An Omega who only just shifted. No political training. No alliances. No. Mitchell's wolf surged forward. She didn't plan it. Didn't think about it. But suddenly she was standing taller, power radiating from her in waves, and when she spoke, her voice carried the same supernatural resonance that had stunned everyone during the lunar hymn. You're right, she said, and every wolf in the chamber froze. I have no political training. No alliances. No experience ruling. What I do have is a voice that can call down the moon, a bloodline you thought extinct, and a mate who will burn this court to the ground if anyone threatens me. So yes, let's talk about complications, specifically the complication of what happens to wolves who mistake kindness for weakness. The Northern Alpha sat down. Mitchell's heart was pounding, but she kept her expression calm, regal, everything Ezra had drilled into her. Anyone else? She asked, her voice still carrying that supernatural edge. Silence. Klaus's pride flooded through the mate bond, warm and fierce. Good, Mitchell said. Then let's discuss how we're going to work together. Because like it or not, I'm your Luna Queen. And I have no intention of being anyone's political pawn. The meeting continued, but the tone had shifted. Mitchell had established herself, not as Klaus's weakness, but as a power in her own right. Later, back in the penthouse, Klaus pulled her close. You were perfect, he murmured against her hair. I was terrified. You were powerful. There's a difference. Mitchell looked up at him, at this alpha who'd claimed her, protected her, believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Thank you, she said. For what? For seeing me. For making me believe I'm more than broken. Klaus kissed her then. Not the claiming kiss from the forest, but something slower, deeper, full of promise and possibility. When he pulled back, his eyes were burning gold. "You were never broken," he said. "You were just waiting to bloom." And for the first time in her life, Mitchell believed him. Chapter 5. The Siren's Legacy. The archives beneath the Capitol building looked like something out of a Gothic horror movie. Ancient stone corridors lit by modern LED lights, creating a weird temporal dissonance that made Mitchell's brain itch. Centuries of documents lived down here, protected by wards so old they predated written language, maintained by a librarian who looked like she'd personally witnessed the Dark Ages. Her name was Agatha, and she was approximately 3,000 years old, or possibly just very committed to the severe elderly librarian aesthetic. She wore glasses on a chain, sensible shoes that had probably been fashionable in 1847, and an expression that suggested she'd murdered people for less than late book returns. "Alpha King," she said, her voice dusty with age and disapproval. "You've brought the siren into my archives." "Good morning to you too, Agatha," Klaus said dryly. "Yes, I've brought my mate. Mitchell, this is Agatha. She's been head archivist since before my grandfather was born, and has a concerning obsession with proper document handling." "Documents are civilization's memory," Agatha said primly. "Treat them carelessly, and you erase history." Her sharp eyes fixed on Mitchell. "A siren? I thought your kind extinct." "So did I," Mitchell said. "Turns out I'm just fashionably late to my own supernatural revelation." Agatha's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "Follow me. The siren records are in the restricted section. And touch nothing." The last person who damaged a document in my presence regretted it deeply. They descended deeper into the archives, past centuries of pack records, treaty documents, birth and death registries. The air grew colder, thick with old magic and older secrets. Finally, Agatha stopped before a door carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. "The Siren Collection," she announced. 17 documents total, all that survived the purges. Handle them with respect or I'll know, and you won't enjoy the consequences. She opened the door and left them alone in a room that smelled of ancient paper and forgotten magic. The documents were displayed in glass cases, protected by preservation spells. Klaus moved to the first case, reading the faded text. Mitchell joined him, trying to decipher the old script. "Sirens were revered," Klaus read aloud, "but also feared. Their voices could heal or harm, could command wolves against their will, could sing prophecies into existence. Some alphas tried to control them, to use them as weapons. Others tried to eliminate them entirely, fearing power they couldn't contain." Mitchell studied an illustration in another case. A woman with glowing eyes, musical notes flowing from her mouth like visible magic. "What happened to them?" "There was a war," Klaus said, moving to another document. 300 years ago. The Siren Council tried to remain neutral in a territorial dispute, refused to use their power to favor either side. Both sides saw that as betrayal. They were hunted systematically, entire bloodlines erased. The last confirmed siren died in 1723. "Until now," Mitchell said softly. "Until you." They spent hours reading, piecing together information about sirens that had been scattered and half destroyed. Mitchell learned that sirens could shift, but their wolves were different, lighter in color, faster, more attuned to magic than physical strength. Their power peaked during full moons. Their voices could influence wolf behavior, could even force unwilling shifts in extreme cases. They were powerful. They were dangerous. And they'd been murdered for it. "Here," Klaus said suddenly, pointing to a document. "This is important." Mitchell read over his shoulder. The text described the siren mate bond, how it was stronger than normal bonds, how it could only form with an alpha powerful enough to balance the siren's magic, how the bond itself amplified both mates' abilities, creating something more powerful than either alone. "Is that why," Mitchell started, "why my wolf recognized you immediately? Why the bond formed so intensely? Why I can feel your power even when you're not actively using it?" Klaus turned to face her. "We're not just mates. We're magically compatible on a fundamental level. The moon goddess didn't make a mistake. She created a pairing that would be powerful enough to survive what's coming." "What's coming?" Klaus's expression went grim. "There's a reason sirens were eliminated. Someone or multiple someones wanted to ensure that kind of power never challenged existing hierarchies. And now you've revealed yourself to hundreds of wolves. Some will want to protect you. Others will want to control you. And some, he paused, will want you dead just like they wanted your ancestors dead. Mitchell's anxiety spiked. So I'm basically a walking target. You're a Luna Queen with unprecedented power. Made it to the Alpha King. Yes, you're a target. But you're also protected by me, by my pack, by magic that's older than our civilization. Klaus pulled her close. No one touches you without going through me. And anyone who tries will learn why my reputation involves so much arterial spray. You have a gift for comforting people. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to prepare you. The court accepted you last night because you showed strength. But there will be challenges, subtle ones, dangerous ones. Wolves who smile while planning your death. Politics dressed as friendship. Mitchell leaned into him, letting his solid presence ground her. I don't know how to do this. How to be powerful. How to be a queen. You already are. You stood before the court and made the Northern Alpha back down without Klaus having to threaten anyone. Well, he smiled slightly, not overtly. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Klaus kissed her forehead. You're stronger than you know. You just need time to believe it. They continued researching, finding fragments of information about siren training, abilities, weaknesses. Mitchell discovered that sirens could create harmony shields, protective barriers made of layered sound, could influence emotions through specific melodies, could even in extreme cases, sing wolves into temporary stasis. It was overwhelming, powerful, terrifying. As the sun began setting, casting long shadows through the archive's tiny windows, Klaus's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. What? Mitchell asked. Ezra. There's a situation. He showed her the message. Northern Pack making noise about challenging Luna Queen's legitimacy. Might escalate. Get back here. Mitchell's stomach dropped. Already? I've been Luna Queen for 24 hours. Some wolves don't believe in waiting periods. Klaus took her hand. Come on. Time to remind everyone why challenging us is a bad idea. They emerged from the archives to find Ezra waiting in Klaus's office, his usual composed expression cracked with concern. The Northern Alpha's daughter, Serafina, is calling for a Luna challenge, Ezra said without preamble. Traditional combat to determine who's worthy of being Luna Queen. That's, Mitchell started. Insane, Klaus finished. Luna challenges haven't been invoked in a century. And they're typically between wolves of equal power, not between a trained alpha fighter and an omega who shifted yesterday, Mitchell finished flatly. Yeah, I get it. This is basically a legal assassination attempt. Essentially, yes. Ezra looked between them. You can refuse. It's within your rights. And look weak, Mitchell said. Look like I'm hiding behind Klaus instead of standing on my own merit. It'll undermine everything we established at court. You can't seriously be considering this, Klaus said, his voice gone cold. Serafina has been training since she could walk. She's vicious, skilled, and absolutely willing to kill you if given the opportunity. And if I refuse, every ambitious alpha will see me as a weakness to exploit. Mitchell met his burning gaze. I have to fight her. You know I do. I don't have to like it. No one's asking you to like it. I'm asking you to train me. We have. She looked at Ezra. How long? 3 days. Luna challenges require a 3-day waiting period for preparation. 3 days, Mitchell repeated. Okay. 3 days to learn how to not die in ritual combat against someone who wants to murder me. That's plenty of time. Very reasonable. Klaus looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Mitchell's expression must have stopped him. Instead, he pulled her close, holding her with carefully controlled strength. If she hurts you, he said quietly, dangerously, I will end her bloodline. Challenge or no challenge, rules or no rules. Noted, Mitchell said into his chest. But let's aim for me winning instead. Less politically complicated. Training began immediately. Klaus was a brutal teacher. Not cruel but absolutely uncompromising. He drilled her in wolf combat for hours, teaching her how to use her smaller size as an advantage, how to target weak points, how to think 3 moves ahead while your opponent was trying to rip out your throat. Mitchell's siren abilities were still unpredictable, but they practiced those too, learning to project her voice as a weapon, to create disorienting harmonies, to use sound as both shield and sword. By the end of the first day, Mitchell was exhausted, bruised, and significantly less confident about her survival odds. "You're getting better," Klaus said, watching her attempt to dodge his attacks in wolf form. "You're lying to make me feel better. I'm lying to keep you from spiraling. But you are improving." He shifted back to human form, pulling on clothes. "Serafina is strong and fast, but she's arrogant. She'll underestimate you. Use that. Use her arrogance against her. Got it? Along with my supernatural voice powers that I've had for 3 days and can barely control. You'll be fine. You don't know that." Klaus pulled her close, tilting her face up. "I know that you shifted in minutes when it should have taken hours. I know that you commanded the court's attention with your voice alone. I know that you're more powerful than you believe. And the only thing stopping you from being unstoppable is self-doubt." Mitchell wanted to believe him. Her wolf certainly believed him, radiating confidence that Mitchell's human side didn't feel. The second day was worse: longer training sessions, more complicated techniques. The growing awareness that in 24 hours she'd be fighting for her life against someone who'd spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of combat. That night, lying in Klaus's arms, Mitchell finally voiced her biggest fear. "What if I die?" Klaus's arms tightened around her. "You won't. But what if I do? What happens to you? To the mate bond?" He was quiet for a long moment. "If you die," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion, "I'll kill Serafina. Then I'll burn the northern pack to ash. Then I'll probably go feral and have to be put down because losing your mate, especially this early in the bond, destroys you from the inside out." "That's comforting." "I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to make you understand why you have to win. Not for politics or power or proving yourself, but because if you die, I die too, just more slowly and violently." Mitchell turned to face him in the darkness. "No pressure. All the pressure. Use it. Channel it. You're fighting for both of us." The third day passed in a blur of final preparations, last-minute training, and the growing certainty that Mitchell was either going to die or become something more than she'd ever imagined. The Luna Challenge was held at midnight, under the full moon, in the capital's ceremonial arena. Thousands of wolves had gathered. This was entertainment, politics, and tradition wrapped in ritual combat. Mitchell could feel their anticipation, their bloodlust, their certainty that she'd lose. Serafina waited in the arena's center, already shifted. A massive auburn wolf, easily twice Mitchell's size, with eyes that promised death. She was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, and looking at her, Mitchell understood why Klaus was worried. This wolf was a killer, and Mitchell was her prey. "You can still back out," Klaus murmured, walking Mitchell to the arena's edge. "Say the word, and I'll end this. And prove I'm too weak to fight my own battles?" "No." Mitchell took a breath, reaching for her wolf. "I've got this. Probably. Maybe. Very confidence-inspiring. I learned from the best." Klaus kissed her, fierce and claiming and full of everything he couldn't say with words. When he pulled back, his eyes were burning gold. "Win," he said. "Come back to me." Mitchell shifted, her silver wolf emerging in a burst of transformation that was getting smoother with practice. She was smaller than Serafina, lighter in color, built for speed rather than power. But as she stepped into the arena, something inside her clicked into place. The moon was full overhead, and Mitchell felt her siren abilities surge with power. The challenge began. Serafina attacked immediately, trying to end this quickly with brute force. Mitchell dodged, barely, claws raking her side instead of her throat. Pain sparked, but also clarity. This was survival. This was proving she had the right to stand beside Klaus. Mitchell opened her mouth and sang. The sound that emerged wasn't howling. It was music made weapon. The lunar hymn woven with harmonies that disoriented and confused, that made Serafina stumble mid-attack, shaking her head against the supernatural sound. Mitchell used the opening to strike, targeting joints, using her smaller size to dart in and out, making Serafina work for every attack while conserving her own energy. They fought like that for what felt like hours but was probably minutes. Mitchell singing and dodging, Serafina growing more frustrated, more reckless. The arena was silent except for sounds of combat and Mitchell's impossible voice. Finally, Serafina made a mistake, overextended on a lunge, leaving her side exposed. Mitchell struck, her jaws closing on Serafina's shoulder, her voice rising in a frequency that forced Serafina's body to lock up, muscles spasming from the supernatural sound. Serafina collapsed. Mitchell stood over her, her jaws at Serafina's throat, the traditional position of dominance. The arena held its breath. Mitchell could kill her. Should kill her by tradition. Serafina had challenged her Luna position, had tried to murder her in ritual combat. Death was the expected outcome. But Mitchell thought about Klaus's father, about ruling through fear and cruelty, about being different from the monsters they fought. She released Serafina's throat, stepped back, shifted to human form, standing naked and bloodied but victorious in the moonlight. "I won't kill you," Mitchell said, her voice carrying through the silent arena. "But challenge me again, and I'll show you exactly what a siren can do when she stops being merciful." Serafina shifted back, clutching her shoulder, her expression caught between humiliation and grudging respect. "You won," she managed. "You're Luna Queen." The arena erupted in cheers and shocked murmurs in equal measure. Klaus was there in seconds, wrapping Mitchell in his arms and a coat he'd produced from somewhere, holding her like she was something precious he'd almost lost. "You won," he breathed against her hair. "You magnificent, terrifying, impossible woman. You won." "I won," Mitchell repeated, the reality settling in. She'd fought for her position. She'd proven herself. She'd chosen mercy when violence was expected. She was Luna Queen. Not because of Klaus. Not because of politics or mate bonds or destiny. Because she'd earned it. Later, back in their penthouse, cleaned up and exhausted, Mitchell curled against Klaus's side. "What you did today," Klaus said quietly, "showing mercy when tradition demanded death, that was remarkable. Revolutionary. I thought about your father. About ruling through fear versus ruling through strength tempered with compassion." Mitchell looked up at him. "I don't want to be like the wolves who hurt me. I want to be better. You are better. You're everything I didn't know I needed." Klaus kissed her softly. "My beautiful siren. My impossible mate. My Luna Queen." Mitchell smiled, exhaustion and happiness mixing together. "You're Luna Queen who's probably going to sleep for 3 days. Sleep as long as you need. I'll be here." And wrapped in Klaus's arms, the mate bond humming contentedly between them, Mitchell finally let herself believe it. She wasn't broken. She wasn't worthless. She wasn't invisible. She was powerful. She was loved. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. The rejected Omega had become a queen, and the moon herself was singing her praises. The end. If this story resonated with you, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as crazy as this one. And you don't want to miss it.